and welcome to the 5th video in my cable management series. In the last video, I showed you how I was able to affix a USB hub and a couple of my big accessories to the back of my telescope over here and route the power cables for them, as well as a little bit of data cable management. And in this video, I'm going to show you the rest of the data cable management and a neat little solution I found to help make all of this possible, and was actually the driving force behind starting the entire project. So the first thing that I want you to understand is all of the cables will not be riding on top of this telescope. We still need to have a power cable coming up to power everything from a battery somewhere, and battery technology today, as much as it has improved, for me at least, I don't have a battery that can provide enough power for everything that is also lightweight enough to bolt on the top of this and not make the entire system unmanageable. So I still have to have a large, heavy, deep cycle battery on the ground, and a power cable that comes up from that deep cycle battery that plugs into my rig runner. But that's just one cable that I have hanging off the back of my telescope, which is much better than a lot of us who have a large bundle of cables that might be hanging off the back of our telescope. Also, we use a laptop or a computer of some sorts if you're in observatories to manage all of our equipment. And so you'll have many USB cables running from the back of your telescope or wherever your equipment is on the mount into your laptop. And some of us will have USB hubs. Some of us might have PCs with USB cards that allow us to plug many devices in, but it's still a large number of cables coming off the back of our telescope. So I've installed a USB hub on the back of my equipment plate, and that USB hub allows just a single data cable to transmit data from a computer to many different devices, and so that now I'm just contending with only two cables, one power and one data. But I can do better than that. See, there's been some people out there who have found a way to attach a computer on top of their mount, and some of you have seen where I've been doing wireless communications from my cell phone into a laptop, and then that laptop was feeding this USB hub commands, and it was slimming the telescope around via a wireless antenna up here. And so that wireless antenna eliminated the need for me to run a cable from the computer into the back of my mount, but I still had to have a USB cable running from the laptop into my hub. And I've did a lot of research, and I've talked to a lot of different people online, and it turns out that there are these mini PCs that exist that are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2 pounds in total weight, about the same amount as a very large eyepiece. And we can deal with that. That's not a lot of weight to have on the back of a telescope. We do that all the time with high quality eyepieces and that sort of stuff. So 2 pounds is not much to contend with. But I want to be able to run a guide scope on top here, and the people who are using these mini PCs like a Gigabytes Bricks or an Intel Nook are mounting it up here, and I don't have a way to run a guide scope up here. So let me introduce you to the Intel Compute Stick. This thing is smaller than an iPhone. It weighs about as much as a deck of playing cards, and has a Core M3 mobile processor in it, 2 gigabytes of memory. It's 64-bit. It has a SSD built into it with, I believe, 64 gigabytes of storage, but then I've also expanded it to an additional 128 gigabytes with a micro SD card. This boy is basically a laptop in the palm of your hand. And using this, I can run all of my equipment through the USB hub with him securely Velcroed to the front of my equipment plate. So now that I've got the cables routed in a more managed way, I took my USB cable and I just wrapped it around my standoffs a couple of times to take up all of the slack. I rerouted my Ethernet cable here for the focuser, and kind of move some things around just so I have a little bit more space in here and these cables aren't just flaring out everywhere. There's still one more thing that I have to put on, and all of my equipment will now be securely fastened inside of this space here, and I won't have loose cables dangling everywhere, and that's my dew heating strap and the temperature probes. So my dew heating strap just goes right around the front of the telescope like this, quite easily. And because I've already got my cables bundled up from having them stored, all I have to do is just take this bundle of cabling and just nestle it in like that. Now I can take my dew heater and I can plug the power supply into it. I can take my probes and put one of them in here, and the other one just hangs loose to sense the air temperature. I can plan on tying this with a zip tie up to one of these eye holes here so it actually won't come in contact with metal and throw a false reading. So I take the heat probe and I plug that in to the heat probe inlet. My OTA probe goes into the sensor 1, and then the ambient probe goes here, and this just velcros on like this. And now I have my dew control system with all of those cables that would be hanging off the front of my telescope bundled up nice and neat inside of this little space here. And I've actually still got quite a bit of room. If I needed to run a second dew heater with additional probes, I can still fit all of those cables in here. So everything that I have that would be hanging off the back of my telescope is now riding on the telescope. The only cable that I need to come up from the ground to here is my power supply cable. And having one cable as opposed to half a dozen or a dozen cables is a much better solution. It's not quite cable free yet. I don't know that it could ever go cable free until they can make a battery that weighs as much as a cell phone power all of this equipment for many nights. And I just don't see physics allowing for such a battery to even exist. So for now, one power cable is all I need to come up and power everything, and all of the data actually is routed through a little computer up here in the front. And I connect to that computer through a remote session, either Windows Remote Desktop or TeamViewer. And for a lot of us who do remote observing, we're very familiar with that technology. So this is nothing new, and many of you should have no problem transitioning a laptop that does remote connection into an astronomy computer and just putting all of that software on your little computer, however it is you want to store that computer on here via a Gigabyte Bricks up here or the Intel Compute Stick like I did here. Thanks for taking the time today to watch my video. I hope you've learned something new, and I hope you've been inspired to get under the stars and take a look at something through a telescope. If you like what I've been doing, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It'll be a great way for you to show your appreciation, and it's the best way to be notified of when new videos get uploaded. Thank you, and clear skies.